Hey, good morning. Happy campers. How are we this morning? So I just thought I'd catch up with you from home today. Yeah, what a mad 3 weeks it's been so far. A lot of changes, all good in the hood. But but day 22, what's it all about today, Alfie? Well, today it's all about how menopause changed my confidence. And no doubt you probably have seen a bit of a blip and a change with me and my mood and everything else when I'm talking to you on camera today. But it is a mixture of emotions, it's a mixture of hormones. Um, right now, I'm actually battling a sore throat. It came on from yesterday, and I think potentially it's developing into a proper throat infection. I hope not, but there we are. But I'm still here. I still don't feel 100%, but I'm still here. And it's Friday, so it's been a busy week. Even the seagull is agreeing with me. Um, but what I wanted to talk about today is about menopause. It isn't just about your emotions, and it doesn't just about changing your body. It can completely change about how you feel about yourself and your identity as a person, as a woman. I'm 45. I've been going through this change now 3 years next month. Um, you know, how I think and feel, how I function now can be different. It is different at times. Um, and like today, I'm sharing you how it's affected my confidence and how I'm rebuilding it basically with you. Um, like the struggle, for example, the weight gain. I hate the weight gain. I absolutely hate being overweight. I've been on Manjaro, as you know. I've been on that now for, I would say, roughly about 10, 11 weeks. My weigh-ins for the last 2 weeks have plateaued. So I haven't gained and I haven't lost, but I do think I've lost inches. So that's fine. That's good. Um, brain fog hasn't been too bad. I still get my moments, don't get me wrong. Mood swings, I wouldn't say I'm an angry person or moody person. I've never been like that. I'm quite a happy, bubbly person most of the time, but I am human. I'm not a robot at the end of the day. And I think what will trigger me more mood wise if someone is rude and it's uncalled for. I think that's what I find really annoying is when people are rude and inconsiderate. I don't like people who assume things. I don't like people that stereotype me and put me into a box. I'm never going to be a one trick pony. I'll always be multifaceted. I'll always have multiple things, multiple experiences. I like change. I have no issue with change, provided I know why we're having a change. I like communication. So you know where you are. You're all on the same page at the end of the day. Um, with all that said, though, feeling invisible at work is something that I wouldn't say I experience every day, but I think more about invisibility for me is, like I say, it's about when managers, they just want you in a certain position because it suits them for whatever reason. They don't want to invest in you, or they don't want to listen and actually think, actually, why don't we start training her up on this? Why don't we start looking at putting her in this? When I know I'm more than capable, and I've already showed multiple times and expressed my feelings multiple times that I'm needing to move on now. I need to do something else. I need to, change. I need to move on. And I'm still in the same position. So, I get to the stage where I think, okay, then, if people aren't going to listen to me after how long I've been there, then I need to start looking for myself other options, other opportunities. And obviously, I was stuck, like I said to you, I was financially in a position where I'm fed up of earning a wage monthly. Like I've just been paid this week, it's already gone. So for me, that frustrates me because I don't really have much to show for it. Yes, I got a roof over my head. I'm very grateful. I got a lot more than what a lot of people have. I know and I understand that. What I find frustrating is that I just want to be able to enjoy life a bit. Um, if I want to or need to go out and buy something, not all the time, but just being able to afford to be able to buy a coat, a pair of shoes, and not think, oh my God, have I got enough money for that? Because 9 times out of 10, I don't. And I'm not into designer labels personally. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying I don't like them, but it doesn't interest me. I'm quite happy at going shopping in Asda, going shopping in New Look, going shopping in Next. I think going to Next shopping is a luxury for me, you know. Same with Marks and Spencers. I like, you know, the Purina range or whatever in Marks and Spencers and things. And, you know, I look at their clothing and their price tags and I'm thinking, I could get probably two for the same price in Primark, you know, or Primark, however you want to pronounce it. Um, so yeah, so I just think, oh, I don't know. Sometimes it just bothers me a bit. You know, I get a bit frustrated, um, but I'm doing something about it, and that's the thing as well. You know, I'm not gonna be made to feel invisible. I'm not gonna be put into this box that people like to put me there. I'm not gonna stay there for long. That's for sure. You know, I've been building a business slowly behind the scenes. I'm also doing some work behind the scenes to grow this channel, to grow products linked to this channel. So I'm doing a lot of work behind the scenes, and I know it will all come into fruition at some point. I just need to be patient with myself and be patient with the fact that I can't do everything at once. I've got to take time to research, you know, do my due diligence, put things in place, make sure things properly work before I can launch anything, do anything. And that's fine, you know, because it'll happen when it's meant to happen. And I think that's the one thing I've taught myself over the last couple of years as well. Um, with going through the change, you know, I got to stop putting pressure on myself. And also, I think because of the fatigue and the tiredness and the low energy levels, because you're so tired, you know, I don't want to overwhelm myself any more than I need to. You know, I need to just be able to function. That's one thing. I need to be able to think, right, okay, what can I achieve today? I always put actions down, I write them down, and I look at my list every week. I try to stay organized. That's one thing how I try to stay on track. Um, and I go from there basically. So, my turning point, I would say, is realizing that, you know, it's not about just blending in and just thinking, oh, I'm of an age now, so it doesn't really matter anymore. I'll just stop and, you know, I'll just hide, you know, and that's never going to be me. I'm never going to stop and I'm never going to hide. Um, you know, I've got a lot to give, a lot of life experience, a lot of work experience, transferable skills. You know, I love talking to people when I'm in the zone to do that. And I'm in, you know, when I know I'm in that mode, then fine, no problem. You know, it's just recognizing, I think, just pull this forward a bit. I think it's just recognizing like what I can do and what I can't do. And if it's something I can't do, then that's fine. You know, I can always reach out to people that can do the things that I'm not able to, or I can research something like I always do. I always use YouTube. YouTube is my go-to, always has been for many, many years. I literally use YouTube every single day for something, whether it's watching something, researching something, or both. And now I'm here building this channel, so that's all good. But like I said, I'm not hiding. I'm not going to stop. Starting YouTube and building my businesses, you know, is something that has driven me more so than ever now because I really feel I am ready. You know, I'm not going to let my menopause define me. I'm not going to make it slow me down any more than it has to or that it does do. You know, I really just want to do the best when I can, sensibly, and like I say, I'm not going to overwhelm myself, but I will always do something positive and productive each and every day. Like showing up, like I promised myself, I would do 30 days. So far, this is day 22. And yeah, you know, I'm on the downward bit now. I've done the very bit where I've gone to the top, and I'm right coming down now to the finish line. And it's taught me the fact that, you know, through my resilience, through my determination, through my planning, you know, my actions and being focused and driven and belief in myself, that I know I can do this and I can achieve far more. You know, I can do a lot more. Um, I actually feel, and this is not being big headed, that I just feel I'm meant to do a lot more and I'm not meant to be stuck in a 9 to 5 grind. You know, I do feel like I should be doing something else. What that something else is, I really don't know. I still feel it'd be a combination of things because that's literally how I am. I don't want to be one specific thing. Like I said, I'm not a one trick pony. You know, I'm not going to just be one thing. I am going to be, you know, multifaceted of a number of things at the end of the day. Um, However, you know, I think the main thing as well is, despite everything, despite all the changes, it's about choosing to put myself first again, and that's what I am doing. That's why I started this channel. It was to put myself first. It was also to make myself accountable, and also to help grow this community, because I think there isn't enough still out there. That there is a change. I think that menopause is starting to be talked about more. There's starting to be communities growing, and that's great. We need that. We need more of it. We also need to tie it in with the mental health side, which I think is massive, and it's quite sad actually how ill some women can be. Like, it's quite worrying how unwell women can become going through the change, either because they don't realize they're actually going through the change, because they think that they should be in their 50s when it happens, when actually that's completely wrong. It's not factual. People can argue with me as much as they like. I am one of those people that I know I am not even in my 50s, and I started being perimenopausal in my 30s. So I know the textbooks, the medical textbooks that doctors basically use to study, GPs, whatever. I know for a fact that those books are wrong. They need to be updated. There needs to be a lot more training out there for the medical professionals who are going to be coming across people like myself. A member of my family, for example, has been perimenopausal like me, in their 30s, and she went to her GP twice in a year, and the male GP refused and started being quite aggressively, like almost condescending as well with her, and refused to listen to my sister. So my sister said, I want a second opinion and I want to speak to another doctor. He did not take that kindly, and my sister was asked to leave. How disgusting is that, when she knows her own body? And you know what happened? She went to another doctor surgery, registered with them, and the doctor straight away listened to her and he said, "You're right. You definitely are right. It sounds like you're perimenopausal." She is now on HRT, on the first stage of HRT, after having tests and things done. Why is it we've got to battle as women just to be heard? We know our own body. If there's a change and something's not right, or you've not been feeling right, and there's been things consistently happening, and you've documented it, you've diarized it, you've got actual information documented that you can present to your local GP, then why aren't you being listened to? For me, one of my biggest indicators when I turned 40 was, after having precancerous cells removed, my period stopped. Now, my mind was thinking one of two things. Either I do have cancer and it is somewhere else in the body, like in the actual, further up in my stomach or cervix or whatever, after having that treatment done, and either that wasn't correct or they'd missed something, or two, I am actually in the menopausal stage. And it took for me nagging at my GP more than one conversation. And I said, right, okay, so you're telling me that because my periods have stopped, it must be because of the pill, when I knew that I'd been on the pill since I was 14. I've never, ever, ever experienced this. He was trying to make all these excuses, and trying to push me away from, no, you're not, you can't be, you're too young. And that's literally what he was telling me every time. And I said, look, I appreciate your point of view and your experience, but let me tell you, I know my body, and I know something has changed. I know, because it's been consistent like this for so long. I have never gone through this in my entire life since I've been 14, and at that point had been on the pill for like 28 years. So don't try and tell me, oh, it's the pill, when I know it's not. And for those that don't understand what I'm talking about, the pill is the contraceptive pill. I basically was prescribed the pill when I was 14, because my periods have always been horrendous, in terms of, they last for 7 days and they are so heavy that I have to take changes of clothing with me because of the heavy flow and consistent flow of blood. Sorry, but that's literally what it is. And that is why I went on the pill, because the pill was to try and regulate me, which it did from the get-go. But unfortunately, the heaviness did not really stop. It was continuous. My anxiety was always up there with it, because I was always worried that I was going to come through my clothing. and if I was sitting on something that was not a surface that was mine, I was always afraid that I might bleed through my clothing and then, stain the furniture that I was sitting on. So it came with a lot of pressures, a lot of worry. All that's gone. I don't have that anymore. So please don't try and tell me I'm not in that menopausal stage when clearly I am. So I get it. Like, I could get the frustrations that women go through. And like my family member, it took her to the point where she felt like she was losing her mind because people were not listening to her. And I'm not saying all male GPs are like this, but it feels more so because my GP, who I kept speaking to, was also male, and he kept refusing the fact and discouraging me from believing that I was on the change. The one thing I will say, though, my consultant, who I finally got to see, who was a male, was about the same age as me. Straight away, he said to me, "Do you know what? It makes me so angry when I hear the same types of stories coming from so many different women that their GPs were not listening to them, and they were trying to discourage them from going to see me regarding how they're thinking and feeling." He said, "I can tell you one of two things. You're either perimenopausal or you're menopausal. You're definitely one of the two." He said, "Your experiences, your symptoms, exactly what you're telling me, and for the information you provided me today," he said, "you're definitely one of the two." He said, 100%. He said, "It annoys me that they're not listening to you." He said, "I'm sorry to hear that." But he said, "Today, because of your bad experience, I'm going to make sure you're going to have bloods done today. I'm not going to send you off to go off and make an appointment and get bloods. I'm going to get one of the nurses here in the hospital to take your bloods now," because he was so annoyed that the way I'd been treated. It had taken me 2 years to get to my appointment. Okay, granted, we were going through COVID when I first started pushing for this appointment. So clearly, it wasn't quite deemed as like an urgent type, appointment to have with the GP. So things had slowed down quite considerably because clinics and safety and everything else and the lockdown. But when I did finally see him, it had been 2 years since I'd had a period, over 2 years, in fact, because I saw him in the September. No, I saw him in the July, end of July. Excuse me. I saw him at the end of July, and that was in 2022. And I started taking the HRT in the September. So when I went off on my holiday, because I wanted to be basically not in work, I wanted to start taking HRT when I was in a relaxed environment. And I actually went on holiday at the time with my sisters and that. And I wanted to be in a much more calmer situation. And yeah, that's what I did. And I haven't looked back. And I do feel that the HRT patches that I've been prescribed has definitely helped me. I do feel the symptoms aren't as severe at times. There's no perfect cure for it. You do have to ride the waves. But, it's definitely helped, and I was listened to. And it's not about being right, but it's also about like understanding that your body, you understand if something isn't right, you understand if there's a change, you notice these things. And I'm so thankful and grateful to that consultant who saw me and said to me, "Rhiannon, it's not you. Unfortunately, they just don't want to listen. And because they are fixated on what they studied back when they studied to become a doctor, that information is no longer accurate. It's not up to date like it should be." And there's a lot more evidence now of us women, coming forward and stepping up and saying, "Look, I think I'm going through the change," and people need to listen. So rebuilding my confidence with this, I would say, is about small wins daily. It's about celebrating progress, not perfection. I'm never going to claim to be, perfect. None of us are. It might be a bit of a wake up call to some that listens to this today. But we're not perfect. And I think people have got to stop putting that pressure on themselves. If you want to go out and be a size whatever, if you want to go out and get Botox, whatever, lip fillers, whatever it is, if that's what you think for you is going to make you feel more confident, go for it. Is it something I'm going to do? Highly likely, no. Not say never, but I can't see myself wanting to do that right now for me, I think for me, like when it comes to like Botox, just a bit of a side note, when I was growing up in the 80s and 90s, Botox to me was literally about wrinkles. It was actually about getting to a mature age and then, literally seeing all those lines and things appear on someone's face and then having Botox. It wasn't about having Botox in your 20s and 30s per se. So I know things change and I get that, that's life. But that's how I associate Botox. It's not about being very young and having Botox when you don't really have many lines at all. And I think what's wrong with showing your age? What's wrong with aging gracefully? Mature like a fine wine at the end of the day, right? So I'm not saying I would never go down that route and have Botox, but as for it stands right now, yeah, I got wrinkles, and it's not gonna deter me from being me. It is part of me, and I'm very grateful that I get to be here still. At my age, battling menopause and everything else that goes with it, the weight gain and stuff like that. But you know, I'm not overly bothered about things, and I appreciate everyone's different as well, and I get that. Um, Speaking openly about struggles, I think as well. I think you need to be open about it with people. If you're struggling, like, stop trying to pretend that you're not. You know, don't suffer in silence. Like, I've always said this to so many people, and I've done other things in the past when I've gone live and recorded stuff on Facebook and stuff years ago. I always used to say this about mental health, like, stop suffering in silence. Be honest with yourself. You've got to be honest with yourself, and you've got to start looking for ways to try and help yourself. Um, as harsh as it may sound that I'm going to say, but you need to help you. Like, no one is going to help make you feel better. It's about up here. It's about working with this first before anything else that you work on. Like, I'm trying to work on myself daily, and I'm not perfect in any stretch of the imagination. My weight bothers me. That affects my mental health. I am doing something about it. Whether I still stay on the Manjaro, I don't know. Highly likely not now, because the costs are going up through the roof. I don't have it. I don't really have that money to afford to pay for it on a monthly basis. If someone wanted to sponsor me to do it for them, great, I would do that. If they want to pay, give me the injections, yeah, I'll continue doing Manjaro. But financially, I'm not in a situation where I can afford it anymore, which is quite sad, but it's just the reality that I'm in right now. So I'm now looking at other ways to help me continue my weight loss journey. So, okay, it may not be as quick as I'd like it to be. Not that I want it to be a quick experience anyway, because, if you lose weight slowly, it's more sustainable, and I get that. But I feel that I do need to lose weight, and I know it would help me massively in so many ways, and it will spur me on. But the fact that I've already lost 1.5 stone so far in the last 11, 12 weeks is great, and I'm happy and I'm grateful for that. So I've made progress and I made a start, and that's important. And it's just what I do from that now moving forward. Um, I think as well, I want to be able to say to you that, take control of your life, take control of your health as much as you possibly can. Like I say, speak openly. If you're struggling with something, be honest. Don't feel ashamed. Don't feel like, oh, I can't be honest, or I can't say this. You've got to. People are not mind readers. Not everyone is going to be empathic, and not everyone's going to be, on the same wavelength as you, because everyone else is wrapped up in their own problems as well, their own, to-do lists and, tasks they got for the day and life experiences and whatever's going on at home. So sometimes you got to say, look, I'm struggling, or I'm not feeling this way, or whatever. You've got to be honest with people. And I think one thing I want to say to people is, like, confidence doesn't mean having it all together. It really doesn't. It's about deciding to keep showing up, show up whenever you possibly can, even when you don't feel ready. You're not rushing this, don't rush at all, but just keep showing up, keep getting dressed, keep showing up, keep being present. You'd be surprised that, every step that you take along the way is projecting you, is moving you forward into that, direction anyway, that you need to be. And if menopause, if it's affected you too, just comment confidence in this video today, and just tell me how you've been feeling, how you've been coping with things, because it'd be great to hear your experiences, what you're going through. how you cope with it. What is your coping mechanism? Do you have one? It's great to share. I don't have all the answers. I'm simply speaking from my experiences and my thought process. Doesn't mean I'm right. It just means this is what I do to help myself cope with everything. But more importantly, if you haven't done so already, firstly, I want to thank you for being here, and please subscribe to my channel and give this video a like. I really, really would appreciate it. So on that note, I'm going to stop waffling for today. Have a great day, guys. Thank you for being here. Stay blessed.